when it comes to their television shows, in my opinion, it's a dumpster fire.
Yes,
it's a dumpster fire.
All horrible.
So this says Marvel and Star Wars fail again, not on top 2022 streaming charts at all.
Yeah, this shouldn't surprise anyone.
No, it
because
should
their
not.
shows sucked.
So yeah, when you think about the stuff that was released this year,
Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, I Am Groot, Werewolf by Night, and Guardians of the Galaxy's holiday special, which like barely counts.
People said they liked that though.
The funny thing about this is like I consider Moon Knight the same as Andor in that like people liked it but no one watched it.
I mean, I don't know. I saw a lot of people criticizing it because it was like another bait and switch with like the Moon Knight wasn't really the hero.
But it's like I'm just going
character.
off the general. Like I'm a DC person. The Marvel stuff I can't. Like I watched Hawkeye. I liked Hawkeye, but that was technically 2021.
People still are talking about Andor. I don't hear anyone talking about Moon Knight at all anymore.
No.
Like zero chatter about that show.
I know I watched like 2 episodes of Moon Knight actually.
So
and it was just mediocre.
And it had like probably a top talent.
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, with Oscar.
Yep.
So.
And then Diego Luna.
I definitely see why it would appeal to a certain audience, but it would be a niche one.
But it says for Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor were released along with episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, and we can throw in Willow, which was from Lucasfilm. That one ended up being even more of a disaster than people realized it was going to. It says, I did like Moon Knight and Andor a lot, but everything else is basically really terrible. It's unbelievable to think that these two franchises, once as big and popular as Marvel and Star Wars, have now failed to deliver. I think the Star Wars one is almost more egregious because they've made it a television property rather than keeping it in the cinema.
Well, they keep saying that they're going to do movies and they never come to fruition.
Nope.
Patty Jenkins,
Rogue
probably
Squadron.
the most famous. Yeah, with Rogue Squadron.
Yep.
We haven't heard anything of the Taika Waititi one. There's supposed to be some kind of like Kevin Feige produced one coming too.
And they keep threatening you with the new Rian Johnson trilogy that they like to threaten you with like once a year. Kathleen Kennedy says, don't forget about that Rian Johnson trilogy. And then it goes away again.
They're saying that Damon Lindelof, the Watchmen guy, is making a movie now or something like that, but we haven't seen anything.
So remember, Mary, when we discussed how I said, how is it that Amazon Prime could have possibly passed Netflix in the list of like most popular streaming services? Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at this list for top 2022 streaming original programs and the list of top streaming programs overall, it's almost all Netflix.
Stranger Things, Ozark, Wednesday, Cobra Kai, obviously that was.
Do you see what's number 2?
Dahmer was big.
And yeah.
Number 2 for 2022. Oh, reruns of NCIS.
300. Yeah, it's like actually half that's me.
Yeah.
Like I'm half those views.
But like, look what else is on there too. Like Grey's Anatomy reruns on Netflix. Criminal Minds, which is I guess probably on Netflix and
it is
some other shows. But
Rings of Power is way down there.
Yeah. Even Simpsons is still number 15.
It's funny. Criminal Minds is on various because it's on Hulu too, if I remember correctly. Seinfeld, Supernatural. Supernatural is one of those ones that I keep trying to watch and I just can't. Never interested me. People love that show.
That's the stuff that probably would interest me, but like it was a CW show, and I don't know. It didn't look like it took it serious enough.
The first, I'd say the first, I've made it through like 5 to 10 episodes total, like just for episode 1 to 10. And then I always try, like, I'm not somebody who like, the best thing you can do if you're like trying to like watch something and you keep stopping is to just skip that episode and move on to the next one. But I never try to do that with this show. I always try to go back to the beginning and start, and I never make it past like the first few episodes. I mean, there's some decent like
Coco Melon. You can attribute that to my views.
Yes. But when you're making these shows,
you watch Coco Melon?
I'm kidding.
Oh. When you're watching Disney, I was
like, my daughter watches that, but she watches on YouTube.
When you're watching Disney Star Wars or you're watching Disney Marvel television, do you really think that anything you're watching being created is going to ever be held in the same vein as a Simpsons or a Seinfeld or any of these shows that stand the test of time?
No, none of the new stuff will ever touch the old stuff at this point in time. You just don't have the talent behind it. You don't have the vision. You don't have the people that understand the property. They have people that are like undermining the fundamental parts of Star Wars. I mean, they fundamentally don't understand how the Force works. They don't understand the Jedi. They don't understand Luke Skywalker's journey. Book of Boba Fett proved that, where they were like having Luke give the baby Yoda character Grogu this like ultimatum: you have to pick between your friends or the Jedi. And it's like, Luke, do you not remember that you literally left Yoda to go save your friends on Bespin, and then you literally did the same thing with your father in Return of the Jedi? Like, you literally didn't choose the Jedi, and you're one of the greatest Jedi ever, because you realized that the Jedi that of like Obi-Wan and Yoda's time had a misguided view on what love was, and they were misinterpreting it, not understanding it. And you realize that like redemption is real, and your father is still a good person. But deep down inside, it can be redeemed.
All of those ideas are like actual storytelling, and not just storytelling for the sake of owning someone, of owning the
like She-Hulk.
Like, that's human and not robotic enough.
Out of all of the Marvel shows that they made, the one that had the most buzz around it was She-Hulk, and that's because it was made literally for people to hate.
To spite. They admitted that.
If that's the thing, if you're going to make material to hate and for people to hate, and the best you can do is that the show you made out of spite for people that you don't like, who literally would love to give you money as long as you just made stuff for them, but they have this weird hatred for their own audience. Like, if you can't even get one of your other shows, not even Miss Marvel, which is one they want to make a flagship, just like they want to make Captain Marvel.
They've tried everything with that.
Where are the teenage girls that are super into Marvel?
The same.
Where are the single 35-year-old professional women who are super into
Her
Marvel?
name is Sana
They work
Amaman.
at Marvel in the writers' room, but are they watching it? No.
Well, here's the thing. It's the same. It's the same logic for why they can't get the WNBA to become profitable, because women don't care. They're making things for women, and women don't care.
You can't make us care.
You can't. They're trying to force.
Like, why would you want to
care.
watch a subpar product when you can watch men play at like a way higher level? It's just. I mean, there's an example that I always go to. The U.S. women's soccer national team got trounced by 13-year-old boys in like Dallas a couple of years ago in like a scrimmage. Like, they literally got beat by a bunch of 8th graders.
Yep.
I mean, it's just an insult to women that they have to watch only content that exactly represents them, instead of just relating to any story like a human being would.
Yeah, well, what's crazy about She-Hulk is like they try to make I guess they try to pitch it as that Boston Legal show that was popular.
I love Boston Legal.
Well, there's another one. Boston Legal's a show, but there's another one with I can't remember what the name. My wife watched it. Yeah, Ally McBeal.
I'm such a boomer. It's awesome.
No, my wife was watching all the reruns of that when she was on maternity leave.
I don't watch Ally McBeal, but I love Boston Legal. Shatner, man.
But I watched that show, and it wasn't terrible, because it's a legal drama, and like obviously there's like some personal drama and stuff like that, and that appeals more. I would argue their main audience was women, but like, there's nothing wrong with that, because like I could watch that, and I got it too, because it had some interesting aspects to it, but they decided to be spiteful instead.
Yeah.
The top shows right now are shows that everyone can watch because they have universal appeal.
Yep.
They also don't insult their own shows. They don't insult their own viewers. They don't make fun of their own like magic or properties. Like Loki, for example, makes fun of the whole, like, okay, the Infinity Stones are these huge things that Thanos used to like literally wipe out half of the universal population. In Loki, as soon as we see it there, they're literally being used as paperweights. And it's like, why are you making fun of your own like magic? And Tolkien writes about this. He's got a whole essay called On Fairy Stories, and he says like that is the one thing that you cannot do when you're writing a fairy story, is to satirize your own internal magic, because it drops the viewers' suspension of disbelief, and so they're no longer actually in the story living it and breathing it with you. They're looking from it on the outside now.
We could have saved them, because you know that these are the same weirdos who have like the people writing these things are probably the same people who've never read anything other than Harry Potter. And you could be like, it would be like if Voldemort like took a Horcrux and like used it to skip it like as a skipping stone in a river or something like that. Like you can only speak to them in a language they understand.
We Not actually anymore though.
And there's plenty of examples like this too. So they actually will tell you, they come up with like these dumb like inside jokes between their friends, and they're like, oh, let's write a story about it. Amelia Clark did this absolutely horrendous comic book.
Oh yeah, it was so bad.
From Image Comics, and she when she was promoting it, she said it was just an inside joke that she had with her friends on like a taxi ride, and it's like, Someone should have told you no, but because it's Emilia Clarke, they figured they could get like a cheap, quick buck because of her name and Game of Thrones.
Like even sometimes when we're making thumbnails, we have to remind each other that people aren't going to get this reference. Like you can't project your work outwards to people without people actually knowing what the hell you're talking about. That's not possible. It's not a thing. So it's the list here, and it is also funny too, because for most of these shows, they're far more mass wide appeal. So you look at Dahmer, you look at Bridgerton, you look at Wednesday. Those are the ones that stick out.
I'm surprised that Stranger Things is still at the top
of it.
No, I had the third season. What is it? Fourth season came out.
Fifth.
Yeah, I mean everyone's seen the first and second season if you ask them, but who is still hanging on to Stranger Things? Apparently, everybody is still like hooked on the show, even though they ruined
You also have to
it.
remember that the new episodes that came out were literally like movies. They were like an hour and 20-minute long.
But they're only that long because they include a bunch of trash that doesn't need to be in them.
Yeah, I will say that
it's a cinematic experience, except you just didn't do the right cutting that you needed to do.
They totally overdid in the last ones, but people are still invested in that property, I think.
And they're like going to be gray-haired.
Yeah, eventually they'll just be old people.
It sounds like they're going to stop at 5, right?
I think they should have stopped. I mean, they went.
Talking about spin-offs now.
It sucked.
Oh, great.
Starting at season 3.
I mean,
season
number 1.
3 was where it should have just stopped.
Not everything needs a spin-off.
I actually I thought season 3 brought it back because I was a little bit disappointed in 2, and 3 brought it back. Oh, here we go.
Another crisis party.
Yeah. Crisis party.
It's impossible to ignore.
Here. You need to get one that shoots back. So
that's a good idea.
Guests can fire back at you guys.
They wanted it to be pointed directly at us, and I was like, that is a blinding.
That is not happening. Not with us. So look,
workplace hazards.
None of it. The thing is also none of it feels special. Like these properties, when Marvel was releasing a couple movies a year, and Star Wars released I mean, back in the day, not even every decade. Like you'd have a trilogy every. How long is it between the first trilogy and the second trilogy?
Like the 80s to 2000 early or whatever.
Yeah, when
it's Phantom Menace, I think.
So none of it feels special, and it's a product of an oversaturated market.
I don't like that. I don't like that excuse. That's the excuse that Bob Iger was using.
I think it works for Marvel. Maybe not for Star Wars, but I think it works for Marvel.
I don't like that excuse in general at all. And I think Kevin Feige actually gave a really good answer to that on this podcast appearance he did maybe last week or early this week, where he's like, well, does anyone say that about like doing novel adaptations? It doesn't really make any sense. And actually, I kind of agree with him. I don't think oversaturation is like a thing. I know people say they're tired of superhero movies, but at the same time, like those same people might go out and say like when you actually get like a really good one, they're like, oh, that was really good. So you can still do that. I think it's more of the issue with Marvel and Star Wars now is clearly quality rather than quantity at all. I mean, their quality is absolutely garbage.
My argument is more like because of the saturation in the market that they are not putting the best writers on a couple of projects. They're spreading out a bunch of bad writers over a bunch of projects.
Well, they think they're the best writers.
It's more than oversaturation. It's a breaking of trust.
Yeah.
Why would we give Andor a chance, even if it is genuinely good, after watching Obi-Wan?
Right. It's the exact same thing that happened with Solo. So Last Jedi came out.
Yeah.
Solo came out like June, right after Last Jedi came out in December or whatever, and no one went and saw it. It was the first box office bomb, whatever you want to call it, for Star Wars. And I think you're exactly right. People were willing to give Obi-Wan a chance. You saw that kind of with the Nielsen numbers when they came out, slowly declined over time. A little bit of a bump at the end when people started streaming all of the episodes, because Nielsen tracks every single show when they release their numbers. It's not just that episode's release.
Yeah.
So you saw a little bit of that coming back up, but then Andor. People are saying Andor is good, but like I don't really care.
But by this point, does
Obi-Wan
it matter?
would destroy any kind of they've been destroying it since Force Awakens. Honestly, when they kill Han Solo, turn him into a bad dad, and all the dumb stuff they have in there before you even get to Last Jedi with Luke Skywalker throwing his lightsaber over his shoulder. But I think it's like more of a story quality standpoint, and I can even argue from that perspective with from Last Jedi from Force Awakens to Last Jedi. In Force Awakens, you have Hux, like the basic, like the main, like First Order guy. He literally gives this like Hitlerian, like evil speech, like, and then blows up 5 planets with like his weapon or whatever. And he's like a dude to be reckoned with. He doesn't take crap from Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren seemingly kind of has like a rocky relationship with him, but he respects him. Yeah. What happens in the next, in the very opening scene of The Last Jedi? The dude's getting prank called by Oscar Isaac, like literally prank called, like in Star Wars. And it's like, what are you even doing?
It goes to what you're saying about not taking your own material seriously.
Right.
They don't.
Exactly.
They don't. If they, it's maybe it's because these people don't actually have respect for the projects they're working on.
No, they don't.
They don't. Like
they
just
don't.
like the Rings of Power.
Yeah.
They don't have any respect for the place from whence the material came.
And where does that come from?
Just
Because
lip
there's no
service.
shortage of people that do care out there, right?
They cast these types of writers now. They don't just
Is
hire
it just
them.
this
They cast
insulated
them.
club that
Yes.
you can't get in unless you meet the benchmark of hating the properties?
But also, I think what it is, I think a big part of this
all
It doesn't
agenda.
make sense.
but also,
No, they have it. No, it does make perfect sense when you look at their websites and it shows you what their agenda is. They want to have like 50% minorities by X year, and that's on like
We're
Disney's
gonna get
website.
to that with Daredevil.
Yeah,
but it's not just that. I think part of it is also
that's part of it though. Like
Yeah.
they admit that that's part of the agenda, and then like not only do they want that behind the screen, they want that in front of the screen, but it's also all of that stuff has to be in the shows too. I mean, we had all those leaked stuff from Reimagine Tomorrow where they're literally saying they're putting in their not so secret gay agenda. We have emails from Bob Chapek saying like he's putting all of this stuff in there in the movies. Like they
get
readily
giddy
admit
about it.
Yeah, they
They're
tell
like,
you what they're doing.
They're like little goblins.
Yeah.
Well, beyond just the identity politics, I think there's actually an argument to be made that if you're a mediocre writer, right, and you get hired on to this massive franchise created by someone of immense talent, there's some resentment there because you know that you're not going to be able to be a caretaker to this property the way that you actually need to do the story justice.
Potentially. I mean, I think there's lots of people that would be honored to
But the
take
ones
care
they
of it.
hire are not.
Yeah, clearly.
Ah!
And that's because of their hiring
That was
practices,
a lot.
right? Their hiring practices aren't based off of whether or not the person is going to respect the property, honor the property, actually has a good idea on where they want to go with that property. Their hiring practices are based off of their race and politics and sexual identity and gender identity and whatever other identity you want to put in there that they've put into their
Or nepotism.
And the end result is that we get tons of buzz. There's tons of articles written about Star Wars. There's tons of I love the propaganda articles. Those are my favorite. The CBR, the Screen Rant, the CBR.
It's the same company, right?
It's all Valnet,
which is from Canada.
So it's
Damn Canadians.
And they run Game Rant too.
I love those articles where it's like, why Rava's the best Star. She's the most powerful Star Wars character in the last 20 years. My favorite was this one recently that was it says why Captain Marvel has been voted the most inspiring Avenger, and I'm like, I can't wait to see. Yeah, this is so the metric was that Air Force enrollment is up. Therefore, she is since 2019 when the movie came out. So apparently, everyone who enrolled in the Air Force did so because they think that Carol Danvers is just the greatest.
That's some correlation.
Yeah,
there.
fantastic. Like I love the propaganda articles because I just read them and I'm just like, I can go to now 5 other
I
sites.
don't even think of her as an Air Force pilot.
Yeah.
Like I guess she's in the plane for a little bit.
But not for very long.
Her Monica is or Monica's mom or whatever.
Who is
Maria
Rambo?
Maria, right?
Yeah, they did
yeah.
Maria Rambo. So, but it's just funny because then you go to 5 other sites and they have like their own version of it, where it's like, why?
It's just reworded very subtly.
They do that. Well, they do. The politics does the same thing where they just rewrite articles because it's all fake. The world we live in isn't even real anymore, guys. If you're experiencing it through a screen, it's fake. I'm probably a lizard person too.
I'm definitely not a lizard person.
I could definitely
Don't group us in here.
I could definitely be a lizard person.
Do you have any kind of do you have the surgeon on call? Like,
we're gonna get
figure it
clipped
out.
where they edit our eyes to start like shifting like the reptilian eyes.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.